Let me begin with something quietly personal, something that speaks directly to the part of you that rarely gets attention, the part that sits in silence, even when surrounded by noise. Have you ever wondered why your birthday no longer feels like a birthday? Why the same date that once filled you with anticipation now passes with the softness of an ordinary morning? Why the excitement you once carried effortlessly as a child has dissolved into a calm that doesn't quite feel like peace? And beneath that calm, have you ever sensed a faint echo, a subtle ache, a feeling too gentle to name but too persistent to ignore, as though a younger version of you is still waiting for a moment that never really arrives? It is tempting to say the shift happened because of age or maturity or responsibility, yet the truth is far more intimate, far more rooted in the emotional patterns you learned long before adulthood began. Birthdays, although seemingly simple on the surface, are deeply symbolic moments that activate the most private aspects of your relationship with attention, vulnerability, self-worth, and recognition. When you treat your birthday like a normal day, it is not because the day lacks meaning. It is because the meaning was once interrupted, reshaped, or diminished by experiences that taught you to regulate your expectations so carefully that now you barely allow yourself to feel anything at all. You might think you genuinely do not care, that the day holds no special weight, that life has moved far beyond the need for celebration. But if you look closely, quietly, honestly, you may notice that your indifference is not pure indifference, but a learned stillness, a protective adaptation formed in the spaces where disappointment once lived. The psychology behind this is profound, because it reveals how you learn to survive emotional inconsistency by teaching yourself not to expect anything more than what you were given. For many people, the birthday that feels like just another day is actually a reflection of their early emotional experiences. If your childhood birthdays were overlooked, inconsistent, tense, or overshadowed by circumstances you had no control over, your nervous system absorbed a lesson. Hope is risky. Joy is conditional. Attention is unpredictable. And because children adapt with instinct rather than language, you learn to minimize your emotional needs long before you understood what those needs represented. The adult who shrugs off their birthday is often the child who learned to stop hoping loudly, because hoping loudly felt unsafe. This is what psychologists call emotional adaptation, the process through which your brain restructures itself to protect you from repeated discomfort. Over time, the anticipation that once felt exhilarating becomes muted, not because you lost the capacity for joy, but because you learned to manage your heart with precision. You learned that neutral expectations hurt less than hopeful ones. You learned that staying quiet about wanting attention guaranteed no disappointment, and so silence became your safety. There is also the influence of attachment patterns, subtle yet powerful internal systems shaping how you relate to closeness and recognition. If you grew up receiving inconsistent affection, warm one year, absent the next, your nervous system developed a guarded stance toward special occasions. Birthdays, which highlight visibility, become emotionally loaded. The mind quietly thinks, if I pretend this day doesn't matter, then it won't hurt if no one makes it matter. This is not avoidance. It is self-preservation wrapped in maturity. Another layer of this psychology comes from parentification, the role reversal where a child becomes emotionally responsible for the adults around them. When you grow up holding the weight of others' feelings, your own joy begins to feel secondary. You learn to be the one who remembers everyone else's day because it is easier to give than to receive. And as the years pass, your own birthday begins to feel unfamiliar, almost intrusive, as though celebrating yourself disrupts the role you were trained to play. But beyond childhood influences lies a philosophical dimension shaping how adults experience the passage of time. Psychologists refer to it as temporal self-awareness, the moment when your birthday becomes a quiet checkpoint rather than a celebration. You evaluate the distance between who you are and who you thought you would be, the choices you made and the ones you avoided, the time that moved forward and the parts of you that did not. Birthdays become mirrors, reflecting both presence and absence, progress and stagnation. And while the world expects you to feel joy, your mind is busy negotiating meaning. This negotiation creates an emotional paradox. The The day that once made you feel deeply alive now makes you feel deeply aware. And sometimes, that awareness is too heavy to hold, so you treat the day like any other, blending it into routine to avoid the weight of reflection. Neutrality becomes emotional shelter. Adults who treat their birthday like a normal day often share common traits, not because they lack sentiment, but because they carry sentiment so intensely they protect it with silence. They become people who prefer sincerity over spectacle, depth over decoration, presence over performance. They don't want attention that feels forced or inflated. They want connection that feels genuine, thoughtful, rooted in understanding. They want to be remembered without asking, noticed without hinting, acknowledged without requesting space for their own existence. Even when people act indifferent, a small part of them still listens for their name, still notices who reaches out, still feels the warmth of being remembered. This is what psychologists call earned emotional independence, the state in which you have learned to rely on yourself, but still carry the quiet hope that someone will choose to care without being prompted. This hope is not weakness. It is the most human desire in the world, to be seen. Your relationship with your birthday reveals how deeply you have learned to balance independence with longing. The stronger you become, the quieter your desires grow. Yet they do not disappear. They wait, gently, like an unopened letter inside your chest. You may not crave a party or gifts or attention, but you still want to feel acknowledged. You still want your existence to register softly in the lives of the people who matter to you. This longing becomes especially visible in the way adults replay the day in private. You might tell everyone it doesn't matter, but later, when the night grows quiet, you may feel an unexpected tenderness or a subtle sadness, not because the day failed you, but because the part of you that remembers childhood still wonders what it would feel like to be celebrated with ease, without calculation, without emotional restraint. The part of you that once believed the world would pause for you still whispers even now. But treating your birthday like a normal day is not a flaw, nor is it proof of emotional numbness. It is a sign of your evolution. As you grow older, meaning becomes internalized rather than external, shaped not by rituals but by reflection. Your birthday becomes less about being noticed and more about noticing yourself. You begin to value alignment over attention, authenticity over ceremony, presence over performance. Your celebration shifts from outward expression to inward awareness. This is connected to what psychologists call self-concordant motivation, the alignment between your inner values and your external behaviors. When your birthday becomes a quiet day, it is often because you have learned to find fulfillment in consistency rather than novelty, in small daily joys rather than curated events. The celebration becomes subtle, woven into the fabric of your life rather than extracted from it. However, even in this quiet alignment, there remains a gentle truth. Self-sufficiency does not eliminate the desire to be seen. Strength does not erase longing. Maturity does not cancel vulnerability. You can enjoy your day in silence and still wish, deep down, that someone would pause for you, not with extravagance, but with sincerity. And that wish does not make you childish, it makes you human. People who treat their birthday like a normal day often develop unique emotional habits. They become the ones who celebrate others wholeheartedly while forgetting themselves, the ones who show up for others without hesitation, the ones who create emotional safety for everyone except themselves. And sometimes, they forget that they deserve what they offer so freely. Your birthday, even if quietly treated, is a reminder that you are still here, carrying memories, carrying growth, carrying versions of yourself that survived things no one else saw. It is not about joy or parties or noise. It is about acknowledgement of your resilience, of your evolution, of your story. When you say your birthday is just another day, you are not diminishing its importance. You are resisting the vulnerability that comes with being recognized. You are protecting the younger self inside you who once felt overlooked or misunderstood. And the most compassionate thing you can do now is to listen to that younger self without judgment, to hold their experience carefully and let them know they are not invisible to you. You do not need a celebration to feel valid. You do not need a crowd to feel real. But you deserve, at the very least, one moment of inward acknowledgement. A brief pause where you let yourself feel the gravity of your existence without dismissing it. So if your birthday feels quiet this year, do not see it as emptiness. See it as transformation, as the evolution of meaning, as the mind learning that a single day does not define your worth, but can still hold space for your reflection. And if someone remembers you, genuinely, thoughtfully, let that warmth in without questioning whether you deserve it. Let it touch the part of you that once hoped loudly, the part you silenced to protect yourself. Because you are still here. You are still becoming. You are still carrying a story that deserves recognition. And even if the celebration is soft, even if it is quiet, even if it lives only inside your own awareness, your existence is not ordinary. Your birthday does not need to be loud to be meaningful. Sometimes the quietest celebrations are the ones that reach deepest. Sometimes the gentlest acknowledgments are the ones that stay with you longest. And sometimes, treating your birthday like a normal day is simply the way your heart has learned to stay safe, while still hoping, in its own patient way, to be seen. If this resonated with you, take a moment, just one, to breathe into your own existence, to acknowledge the miracle of having made it through another year, to recognize the strength it took to arrive here, and to understand that even in the quiet, your life carries weight. And if you want more reflections that speak to the parts of you that rarely get spoken to, you can stay, you can subscribe, or you can simply return when you need a voice that understands the silent places within you.